When Michael Jordan received a resplendent invitation to an exclusive soiree aboard a lavish yacht, he had no inkling it was nothing more than a calculated trap. Within moments of his arrival, the wealthy attendees began to ridicule his unpretentious attire, insinuating his era of relevance was firmly in the past and reducing him to a mere spectacle for their amusement. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Miles Parker, a billionaire entrepreneur with a predatory grin, "I present our special guest for the evening, the man who deludes himself into believing he still holds sway in the world of sports." Laughter reverberated across the yacht's opulent deck. Jordan stood at the center of a circle of people clad in exorbitant designer wear, all clutching champagne flutes and pointing their cell phones directly at him. He wore a plain t-shirt and comfortable sneakers, attire that now appeared utterly incongruous. "Let us ascertain if the king still commands his powers," Miles continued, gesticulating for a visibly compromised basketball to be brought forth. "Show us why you're a legend." The ball was limp, unequivocally sabotaged. Jordan picked it up and immediately perceived the problem, but all eyes were on him. Dozens of cameras recorded every movement. He attempted a shot toward the makeshift hoop. The ball barely flew, plummeting ignominiously to the deck. "Pathetic!" shrieked a woman in a red dress. "The great Michael Jordan can't even sink a kindergarten shot." The peals of laughter became deafening. Jordan felt his face flush with heat, but he managed a strained, diplomatic smile. In 4 decades of renown, he had never felt so diminished. "Perhaps the ball is defective," he attempted to explain. "Ever the purveyor of excuses," Miles interrupted coldly. "It's precisely what I expected. A man who has forfeited his greatness, yet blames everything but his own failings." Jordan attempted another shot. This time the ball flew wildly astray, nearly hitting the guests, who shrieked melodramatically as if in genuine peril. "Both perilous and inept," laughed a gray-haired man. Miles circled Jordan like a shark closing in on its prey. "Look closely, my friends. The man you once idolized is nothing more than an aging charlatan who can't even execute the fundamentals of his own sport." The yacht swayed gently on the waves, yet Jordan felt as though his world was crumbling. Each camera flash felt like a dagger to his pride. The cruel whispers mingled with the sadistic laughter. Miles dramatically flings his arms up to the crowd. "But don't you worry. What you've witnessed so far was merely the warm-up. We have an entire weekend of special games planned for our champion. And trust me," his eyes gleam with unadulterated malice, "you won't want to miss a single moment of what's to come." Jordan realizes he's trapped offshore with individuals hell-bent on publicly dismantling him, unaware that 3 crew members are observing everything from a distance, privy to secrets that will utterly transform this narrative. It had all commenced 48 hours prior. The envelope arrived Tuesday morning, golden and weighty like a gold ingot. Michael Jordan was having breakfast when his assistant knocked on his office door. "Mr. Jordan," she stated, extending the envelope with a touch of deference. "This arrived via special delivery." Jordan looked up from his phone. The envelope was unlike anything he had ever seen. Expensive paper, gold-leafed edges, his name inscribed in elegant calligraphy. No sender. "Peculiar," he murmured, carefully opening it. Inside, an invitation on cream-colored paper with opulent letterhead. "Parker Enterprises." The words seemed to dance on the page with their inherent elegance. "Dear Mr. Jordan, you are cordially invited to the Sporting Legends Summit aboard my yacht, the Aurora Dreams. This will be an exclusive gathering, bringing together the most prominent figures in the athletic world for discussions on the legacy and future of sport. The event is scheduled for this weekend in Miami. Transportation and accommodation are included. Confirmed attendees include Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, Serena Williams, among others. I eagerly anticipate meeting you. Sincerely, Miles Parker, CEO, Parker Enterprises." Jordan read it twice. He had never heard of Miles Parker, yet the name resonated vaguely. "Look into this Miles Parker for me," he instructed his assistant. As she departed, Jordan scrutinized the invitation once more. There was something captivating about the proposition. Tiger, Tom, Serena. It would be extraordinary to assemble so many legends in one place. 20 minutes later, his assistant returned. "I've uncovered some information, Mr. Jordan." Miles Parker is the CEO of one of the world's preeminent sports investment firms. He's worth billions, extremely discreet, with very few public photographs. And the event? It appears legitimate. I found mentions on social media from several athletes regarding a special gathering this weekend. Jordan nodded. His schedule was clear, and the prospect of conversing with other sports icons invigorated him. Book my flight to Miami, he decided. At the appointed time, the taxi pulled up to the marina at sunset. Jordan alighted with a small bag, dressed in his favorite casual attire, a t-shirt, jeans, and comfortable sneakers. He had never been one to dress to impress. The Aurora Dreams was nothing short of magnificent. Over 100 meters of unadulterated luxury, floating on the water like a white palace. Golden lights gleamed from every window. A man in a crisp white uniform awaited him on the pier. Mr. Jordan, I'm Captain Miller. Mr. Parker awaits you on the main deck. Jordan ascended the golden gangplank, a melange of excitement and trepidation stirring within him. Where were Tiger and the others? Perhaps they had already arrived. The main deck was teeming with people in opulent attire, conversing animatedly, champagne flutes in hand. But something felt amiss. Jordan's gaze swept the room, searching for familiar faces. No athletes were in sight, only businessmen in expensive suits and women adorned with glittering jewels. All heads turned as he appeared, and the smiles he encountered were not ones of admiration. They were predatory. Michael Jordan! A voice sliced through the air like a blade. A tall, impeccably dressed man approached him, dark hair immaculately coiffed, a confident yet cold smile. His eyes were what truly commanded attention. There was something calculating, almost cruel within them. Miles Parker, the man extended a hand. We finally meet. Jordan clasped his hand, feeling the grip too firm, too prolonged. Pleasure, Miles. Where is everyone? Tiger, Tom, Serena. Miles tilted his head, his smile widening unsettlingly. There's been a slight change of plans. It appears you're our sole athlete tonight, Michael. Jordan's heart lurched. He glanced around again. All the guests were now observing him, their expressions ranging from malicious amusement to thinly veiled disdain. Change of plan, Jordan repeated, his voice barely betraying a tremor. Miles took a step closer, lowering his voice so only Jordan could hear. Let's just say this event has a far more specific purpose than you anticipate, Michael. And you, my dear fellow, are the main attraction. The yacht began to pull away from the pier, severing any possibility of escape. Jordan was officially stranded at sea with a group of hostile strangers, and the mounting realization that he had fallen into a meticulously orchestrated trap sent a chill down his spine. Spotlights flared on the deck like those in a professional stadium. Miles clapped his hands theatrically, drawing the attention of all the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event. His voice reverberated through the yacht. A little basketball tournament. Jordan's stomach plummeted as he watched three young, muscular men emerge from the lower cabins. All wore professional uniforms and sported cold, calculating gazes. Michael, meet your opponents. Miles gestured proudly. Kevin Martinez, former NCAA. James Thompson, played in the G League, and Daniel Rivers, a current European player. The three men arrayed themselves like soldiers without acknowledging Jordan. There was something mechanical, rehearsed about their movements. The rules are simple, Miles continued, gesturing towards two hoops mounted on the deck. 3 against 1. First to 21 points wins. Jordan glanced at the hoops, and his heart pounded. The hoop designated for him was visibly higher than his opponent's. When he took the ball handed to him, he nearly dropped it. It was as heavy as a medicine ball. Miles, this ball is... He began to protest. Official NBA regulation, Miles lied brazenly. Perhaps you've grown accustomed to lighter equipment in retirement? The guests' laughter cut him like daggers. Jordan glanced down at his feet and realized the sneakers they had given him were slick inside, as if coated with some substance. Bets are open, yelled a woman in a blue dress, brandishing cash. $1,000 on the boys. 2,000 against the old man, laughed a corpulent man with a cigar. Jordan had never felt so humiliated. At 63, he knew he wasn't at his physical peak, but this was blatant sabotage. The game began. Kevin took the ball and dribbled effortlessly around Jordan, who slipped attempting to defend. The guests erupted in laughter as he fell to his knees on the deck. "Get up, legend!" someone jeered sarcastically. Jordan rose, determined to demonstrate his class. He took the heavy ball and attempted a shot. He missed by yards, the ball clattering against the side of the yacht. 0-3, Miles announced like a ringmaster. The great Michael Jordan couldn't even graze the rim. As the game progressed, it became glaringly obvious that the entire setup was rigged. Each time Jordan attempted a move, his sneakers seemed to betray him, or the weighted ball consistently ruined his timing. The younger players showed no mercy, shoving him with impunity as the makeshift referees turned a blind eye to the blatant fouls. 17-2, Miles crowed when Jordan finally sank a basket, purely by a stroke of luck. Jordan was utterly exhausted, drenched in sweat, and profoundly humiliated. He resolved to cease his efforts. It was preferable to concede defeat with dignity than to endure further ridicule. But then Miles approached, a smartphone clutched in his hand, its screen radiating an ominous glow. "Michael," he hissed with a malevolent smirk, "I trust you're not contemplating quitting. Because if you are, well, I have 2 million followers who would absolutely revel in seeing that live stream." Jordan's blood ran cold. The veiled threat was crystal clear. "Surprise!" Miles brandished his phone aloft, displaying the screen for all present to behold. "We're currently live on Instagram, broadcasting to the entire world." Jordan felt a visceral blow to his solar plexus. The display revealed upwards of 15,000 viewers in real time, the count escalating with each passing second. "Greetings, denizens of the internet," Miles addressed the camera directly. "Welcome to the Fall of King Jordan show. Here you witness the legendary Michael Jordan being utterly decimated by 3 players whose names you've likely never encountered." Comments cascaded across the screen like an avalanche of vitriol. "Pathetic. Where's the greatness now? Definitely retired at the right time. This is utterly mortifying to witness." Yet amidst the torrent of malicious comments, Jordan discerned a few outliers. Something isn't right here. Why is his ball different? The hoops aren't at the same height. 21-2, Miles announced triumphantly. Jordan utterly demolished. The guests erupted in applause and raised their glasses as if they had just borne witness to a gladiatorial spectacle. Jordan remained rooted in the center of the deck, gasping and utterly defeated, while untold thousands online bore witness to his public degradation. Miles brought the camera closer to Jordan's sweaty face. "Say hello to your fans, Michael." "Oh, wait." He feigned checking the comments. "It appears you don't have many left." The number of live viewers had surged past 100,000. Jordan grasped that his hard-earned reputation was being systematically dismantled in real time, witnessed by hundreds of thousands globally. "Miles, I beg you," Jordan rasped. "Shut this down." "Turn it off?" Miles guffawed. "We've barely even started. Folks, what do you think? Should the next challenge be even more degrading?" The comments erupted. "Yes! Destroy him! Where's the real Jordan?" But there were others. "This isn't right. Leave the man alone. #respect. Jordan Miles disregarded the positive comments and honed in on the negative ones. "Perfect. Then brace yourselves for the next event. A test of leadership," his voice boomed across the yacht. "We will judge Michael Jordan for all his failures as a person and as an icon. And this time, you, dear spectators, will be the jury." Jordan gazed at the surrounding ocean. There was no escape. He was trapped on the high seas as his life was dissected for mass entertainment. Chairs were arranged in a semicircle on the main deck, like a courtroom. The guests positioned themselves as jurors, some still clutching champagne flutes, all with expressions of cruel anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen, online viewers," Miles assumed the role of prosecutor, striding dramatically. "The time has come for the trial of Michael Jordan." The live broadcast now had over 200,000 people watching. Comments appeared so rapidly they blurred into illegible streaks of text. "First accusation," Miles pointed at Jordan as if he were a criminal. "Extreme arrogance. For decades, this man has behaved as though he were superior to all other athletes. That's not true, Jordan attempted to defend himself, but his voice was drowned out by the shouts of the jurors. Guilty, shouted the woman in the red dress. Second accusation, Miles continued. Unbridled greed. He amassed billions while children starved around the world. I do charity work. I help, Jordan protested. Lies, interrupted the man with the cigar. Where's the proof? Miles produced a tablet displaying fabricated charts. Look here, viewers. While Jordan earned $33 million per year, he donated less than 1% of his income to charity. The figures were obviously fabricated, but the online audience erupted in indignation. Third accusation, Miles's voice grew darker, abandonment of his fans. This man promised to be an example for the youth, yet he vanished when children needed him most. Jordan felt tears welling up. The accusations were like punches to the soul. I always tried to be a good example. His voice was broken. Liar, shouted several guests in unison. The live stream now commanded an audience exceeding 500,000 viewers. The comments section was a maelstrom of animosity and bewilderment. I'll never respect this man again. What a profound letdown. Something isn't right here. Why isn't he offering a proper defense? Miles edged closer to Jordan, his voice dropping to a near whisper, yet ensuring the microphone's sensitive pickup captured every nuance. But all these allegations pale into insignificance compared to what I'm about to unveil, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. The gravest transgression of Michael Jordan, an event that transpired 3 decades ago, one he fervently prayed would remain forever buried. A deathly hush descended upon the deck. Even the torrent of online comments seemed to wane, as if the entire world collectively held its breath. This man, Miles declared, pointing dramatically, utterly destroyed the life of an innocent child, and this barbaric crime precipitated a tragedy he has secretly harbored for 3 decades. Jordan's complexion visibly blanched. He had no inkling of Miles's meaning, yet the online audience had surged past 800,000, all riveted, anticipating the devastating disclosure. Miles strode to the center of the makeshift tribunal, gripping his cell phone as if it were a weapon. His voice resonated across the yacht and through the digital ether. Chicago, 1995, he began with dramatic gravitas, a playground on the South Side. An 8-year-old child approaches his idol, Michael Jordan, after a practice. A chill ran through Jordan's veins. He vaguely recalled that period, yet he had encountered so many children. The child asked for an autograph, Miles continued, his voice laden with feigned emotion. He sought advice. He dreamed of being like his hero. And do you know what Michael Jordan did? The yacht was enveloped in an absolute suffocating silence. The broadcast had now eclipsed 1 million viewers. He rejected the child, Miles roared, told him he would never be good enough, that he should abandon his dreams and pursue something more realistic. That is an outright falsehood, Jordan erupted. I have never uttered such words to any child. Liar, Miles whirled to face the camera. Viewers, that child's name was Tommy Williams, and 6 months after that profound humiliation, he took his own life. The world seemed to grind to a halt. The online comments section erupted into a furor. My God! Murderer! How can he sleep at night? Jail him! Jordan was utterly engulfed in shock. His legs buckled beneath him, and he swayed precariously. This is inconceivable. I would never... He stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Ah, but I have witnesses, Miles sneered, a serpentine smile playing on his lips. Kevin, James, Daniel, tell our viewers what you've unearthed. The 3 players took their positions before the camera. Kevin spoke first, his voice jarringly robotic. We uncovered medical records. Tommy Williams, 8 years old, suicide in December 1995. And his mother, James continued mechanically, told us her son never truly recovered from Michael Jordan's rejection. That was the final straw, Daniel completed. The child idolized Jordan. When rejected, he lost all hope. Jordan gazed at the 3 men, a chilling realization dawning on him that something was terribly amiss. Their pronouncements seemed rehearsed, utterly forced. You're lying, Jordan whispered. I remember Chicago. I was always kind to children. 1.5 million people are watching, Miles bellowed. They deserve the truth about who you truly are. The comments section became an avalanche of vitriol. Dream destroyer, responsible for a child's death, never watching basketball again, hashtag justice for Tommy. But amidst the tempest, a few dissenting comments emerged. Where's the real proof? This looks like a setup. Why are we only hearing about this now? Jordan, with tears welling in his eyes and his voice thick with emotion, finally erupted. Enough! His voice tore through the air like a roar. Miles, why are you doing this to me? Who are you, really? The ensuing silence was deafening. Miles ceased his pacing, his smile flickering for a brief second before returning, more malevolent than ever. Ah, Michael, he whispered, now you've asked the right question. Miles advanced slowly toward Jordan, like a predator finally poised to unveil its true nature. The live broadcast now surpassed 2 million viewers. You want to know who I am? Miles whispered, the microphone catching every single word. I am Miles Parker, but 30 years ago, I was just an 8-year-old kid on a Chicago playground. Jordan felt as though he'd been punched in the gut. No, he murmured. Oh, yes, Miles thundered. I am Tommy Williams, the boy you killed that day. The yacht guests exchanged hushed whispers. The internet erupted. Plot twist. He's alive. 30-year revenge. But you said Tommy committed suicide. Jordan stammered. I lied. Miles let out a booming laugh. Tommy Williams did die, yes. He died the day you rejected him. But Miles Parker was born of hatred, of humiliation, of the solemn vow to one day destroy the man who had shattered his dreams. Jordan stared into Miles's eyes, desperately trying to recall. An 8-year-old boy, 3 decades ago. I don't recall ever rejecting you, he said honestly. I've always been kind to children. Liar! Miles leaned in so close Jordan could feel his breath. You were leaving the gym after a practice. I waited 4 hours in the rain. When I asked you for an autograph, you said you were late. When I asked you for advice, you said, work hard and maybe someday, as if I were just another loser. The words erupted like bullets from a machine gun. Miles was reliving every second of that day 3 decades ago. Those words haunted me for years. His voice was laden with genuine pain. Maybe someday. Do you know what I did, Michael? I used that pain as fuel. Every night I cried, every time I was rejected, every failure, it all transmuted into the resolve to destroy you. Jordan began to vaguely remember. There were so many children, so many requests. Miles, Tommy, if I hurt you, it was unintentional. His voice was broken. I was young. I was focused. Apologies, Miles shouted. Do you have any idea what I did after that day? I studied 18 hours a day. I graduated from Harvard at 19. I built a billion-dollar empire by 35, all fueled by my hatred for you. The camera captured every tear of rage in Miles's eyes. For 30 years, I have meticulously orchestrated this moment, he continued. Every deal, every connection, every dollar, all to wield the power to humiliate you as you once humiliated me. Online comments surged with a mix of shock and confusion. 30 years of vengeance. This is insane. What a wild story. He actually built an empire just for this. Jordan regarded Miles with a blend of pity and horror. You've squandered your entire life, he whispered. Squandered! Miles cackled hysterically. I became a billionaire. I possess power, influence. I control sports narratives worldwide, and all for this moment, to witness the great Michael Jordan broken before me. He pivoted to face the camera, his eyes alight with madness. But viewers, this is merely the prelude. His voice dropped to a dangerously low register. What you've witnessed thus far was mere child's play. Now comes the grand finale I've meticulously crafted over 3 decades, something that will utterly destroy Michael Jordan forever. The broadcast had reached 2.5 million viewers. All held their breath, poised to discover what diabolical final vengeance Miles had engineered. Miles gestured for a large screen to be brought onto the deck. The flickering image of a Chicago playground appeared, evidently recreated with actors. "Allow me to show the world how it truly transpired," Miles declared to the camera. "The real story of Michael Jordan's cruelty." On the screen, an actor portraying a young Jordan strode purposefully while a small boy ran after him in the rain. "Mr. Jordan! Mr. Jordan!" The child's voice resonated from the loudspeakers. "Please, just one autograph." The reenacted Jordan turned with an air of impatience. "I don't have time, kid. Find another idol. But I've trained so hard. I want to be just like you." "Forget it, kid. You'll never be good enough. Go do something else," the crowd on the yacht murmured indignantly. Online comments erupted in renewed fury, but Jordan was shaking his head vigorously. "It didn't happen like that," he protested. "I would never say something so cruel." "Oh, really?" Miles paused the video. "So how did it happen, Michael? Enlighten me." Jordan closed his eyes, straining to recall. Slowly, fragments began to surface. "It was raining," he murmured. "I was leaving the gym after a grueling workout. I had an important meeting." "Go on," Miles stated icily. "There was a boy, small, drenched." Jordan's eyes snapped open. "You'd been waiting for hours, hadn't you? Your clothes were soaked through." Miles tensed. This was not the narrative he wished to hear. "I stopped," Jordan continued, his memories crystallizing. "You asked for an autograph, and I signed your basketball. Then you inquired about becoming a professional player." "Lies!" Miles roared. "You told me your father had abandoned your family," Jordan pressed on, disregarding the interruption. "That your mother worked 3 jobs. I told you basketball could be your escape, but that you'd also need to focus on your studies." Jordan's account diverged starkly from the staged narrative. Online comments immediately began to question 2 different accounts. Who's fabricating the truth? "Need to hear more." I said, "Work hard and perhaps one day you'll make it," Jordan persisted. It wasn't contempt, it was realism. Few make it to the NBA. I was being forthright, not callous. Miles was becoming visibly agitated. "So why didn't you provide further assistance? Why didn't you take me under your wing for training?" "I offered," Jordan burst out. "I told you that you could come to the gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays to train with the community's youth. You never showed up." The ensuing silence was palpable. Miles was ashen, as if struck by lightning. That's not true," he stammered. "I waited for you 4 Tuesdays in a row," Jordan said gently. "I asked the other boys if they knew a Tommy Williams. No one had any recollection of you." Online comments were split. Jordan's fabricating to save face. He seems genuine. Who would buy this story? Something doesn't add up. Miles was breathing heavily, as if on the verge of a panic attack. "You're twisting everything," he rasped. "You rejected me. You humiliated me." "Tommy," Jordan said softly, "I remember you now. You were special. Small, yet incredibly determined. Why did you never show up for training?" Miles glanced around, realizing his fabricated narrative was crumbling. Swiftly, he shifted tactics. "It doesn't matter," he bellowed. "You still hurt me, and now everyone will see you for who you truly are." He turned to the 3 players. "Kevin, James, Daniel, tell him about our agreement." But as he turned, he saw something that froze him in his tracks. The 3 men were positioning themselves alongside Jordan. Kevin Martinez was the first to speak, but this time his voice wasn't robotic. It was brimming with rage directed at Miles. "Enough," he declared firmly. "I can't take this anymore." Miles gaped. "What are you doing?" "We have an agreement." "An agreement predicated on lies and blackmail," James Thompson interjected, joining Kevin. "You told us Jordan had ruined the careers of young players. You showed us falsified documents," Daniel Rivers chimed in. "You claimed he was corrupt, that he shattered dreams." The live broadcast had devolved into absolute pandemonium. 3 million people watched as the story's villains turned on the true antagonist. Kevin turned to the camera. Folks, I need to tell you the truth. His voice quivered. Miles Parker blackmailed us into participating in this charade. He has connections across all sports leagues. He threatened to dismantle our careers if we didn't cooperate. He made us sign non-disclosure agreements, James added. He said if we revealed the truth, he'd sue our families into destitution. Miles was reeling in sheer panic. "Shut up," he screamed. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Oh, but we do," Daniel smiled. "You've shown us exactly who you are over the past few days. A bitter man who built an empire solely to exact revenge for a misconstrued conversation 3 decades ago." Jordan looked at the three young men with profound gratitude. "Why are you helping me?" "Because from observing you over the past few days," Kevin explained, "we've seen who you truly are. Kind, respectful, genuine. You deserved none of this. And because," James added, "we uncovered something about Miles that he desperately wants to keep under wraps." Miles turned ashen white. "Don't you dare! He's not just a vengeance-driven billionaire," Daniel revealed to the camera. "He controls a sports media network that has been manipulating narratives about athletes for years." Kevin grabbed a tablet and displayed it to the broadcast. Parker Entertainment, Sports Media Network, Athletic Insider, all his. He either demolishes or constructs reputations based on his personal agenda. The online audience erupted. "Massive scandal! He controls sports media. How many athletes has he destroyed? Remember the scandal involving the player who lost endorsements due to poor attitude?" James continued. "Or the story about the abusive coach who was fired, all orchestrated by Miles when those athletes refused to do business with him." Miles was having a complete meltdown. "You'll live to regret this," he threatened. "I'm going to destroy not just your careers, but your families, your friends, everything." "No, you won't," a new voice cut through the air. Everyone turned to see Captain Miller striding across the deck, a tablet in hand. "Captain," Miles stammered, "get back to your duties." "Actually, Mr. Parker," the captain smirked, "I've just forwarded some very interesting recordings to the FBI. It appears that blackmail is a federal offense. The broadcast had surpassed 4 million viewers. The entire world was watching Miles's empire crumble in real time. Furthermore," the captain continued, "we've uncovered something rather fascinating about this yacht. It doesn't belong to Mr. Parker. It was leased with funds of questionable origin." Miles was utterly cornered, his facade of control finally crumbling. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," he shrieked desperately. "I control everything. I can destroy any of you with a single phone call." But even as he shrieked, his voice sounded increasingly desperate, less convincing. Jordan approached slowly. "Tommy," he said softly, "stop. You don't have to do this anymore." "Don't call me Tommy," Miles roared. "Tommy died on that playground. You killed him." "No," Jordan shook his head. "Tommy is right here, wounded, angry, but alive. And I can still help you if you let me." The broadcast had become the most watched event in social media history. 5 million people were witnessing a moment that would change everything forever. Miles recoiled to the yacht's edge, cornered like a wounded animal. His breathing was ragged, wild eyes darting between Jordan, the players, and the throng of guests who now regarded him with a mixture of fear and revulsion. "You think you've beaten me?" he cackled hysterically. "You have no idea of my power." He pulled out his cell phone and began dialing numbers frantically. "Thompson," he shrieked into the receiver. "I want a story about Michael Jordan involved in illegal gambling. Publish it within the hour." "What do you mean?" "No, I'm your boss." He slammed the phone down and dialed another number. "Martinez Sports Network. I want a smear campaign against—" "What do you mean you're no longer obeying my orders?" The live broadcast showed Miles unraveling in real time before an audience of over 6 million viewers. "You don't understand," he turned to the camera. "I built an empire. I own Sports Talk Media, Athletic Chronicles, Basketball Insider. I control the narratives surrounding athletes worldwide." Kevin approached with another tablet. It was true, he told Jordan and the online audience. He indeed owns or controls more than 40 sports media companies. He has systematically tarnished the reputations of scores of athletes over the years. Remember the scandals surrounding the missed penalty that cost them the championship? James added. Or the story about the player who deserted the team. All fabrications orchestrated by him when athletes spurned his commercial agreements. The online audience was aghast. How many athletes did he ruin? A monumental scandal. Lock him up. Miles laughed maniacally. Exactly, he bellowed. I possess the power to transform any athlete into a hero or a pariah with a single article, a carefully placed leak, an anonymous source. Do you seriously believe this broadcast will stop me? He gesticulated wildly at the camera. Viewers, mark my words. Even if you despise me now, within a week I'll have fabricated scores of stories about Michael Jordan. Gambling, drugs, infidelity. And you will believe them because I control what you read. Jordan looked at Miles with a mixture of horror and pity. You've truly squandered your entire existence on this, he murmured. Squandered? Miles thundered. I am the most powerful man in sports. I can turn a burgeoning talent into a forgotten figure overnight. I can transform a hero into a villain with 3 strategically planted articles. He began to enumerate his victims as if they were trophies. Marcus Thompson, a college basketball prodigy. Miles began to enumerate like a serial killer tallying victims. I fabricated a narrative about his drug use. His career was obliterated at the age of 20. Sarah Foster, an Olympic gymnast. He continued with a morbid sense of pride. A reliable source claimed she suffered from eating disorders. She was stripped of all her endorsements. Roberto Silva, a soccer player, his voice was growing increasingly shrill. I engineered a wholly fabricated domestic violence scandal. He was deported and irrevocably barred from the sport. The online audience was aghast. Psychopath! How many lives has he destroyed? Someone stop this man! Jordan was ashen, grasping the true depth of Miles' malevolence. How many, Tommy? He asked softly. How many innocent athletes have you ruined? Hundreds! Miles cackled demonically. And you know what's best? They never figured out it was me. They just thought it was bad luck or investigative journalism. Daniel Rivers approached with another tablet. We found his files, he stated with revulsion, a list of over 300 names. Athletes he destroyed for refusing partnerships, for being too popular, or simply because he could. Sarah Chen, swimmer, Daniel read from the list. Reason for destruction, refused advertising contract. Defamation campaign timeline, 6 months until she lost sponsorships. Bob Rodriguez, boxer, Kevin continued reading. Reason, too charismatic, a threat to my clients. Strategy, plant a story about ties to illegal gambling. With each name read, Miles grinned wider, as if they were trophies. You think this shames me, he bellowed. I am a genius. I built a perfect system. I control the narrative. I destroy whom I wish. I build up whom it suits me. He turned to the broadcast, which now exceeded 8 million viewers. And you know what's even funnier? He whispered to the camera. You, dear viewers, have been my accomplices this entire time. You read my articles. You shared my lies. You destroyed careers with your comments based on my fabrications. The weight of his words landed on the audience like a bombshell. The comments changed drastically. My God, how many lies did we believe? I shared false stories. We destroyed innocent athletes. How could we have been so blind? Miles was in ecstasy, seeing the impact of his words. But today, he said theatrically, today is special. Because for the first time, you will see an athlete destroyed live, in real time, by billions of people. He pulled out another cell phone and began recording videos from different angles. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, he murmured. I'll make this go viral across all platforms. A humiliated Michael Jordan will be a global trend for weeks. Jordan realized he was facing far more than just personal vengeance. He was fighting an entire system of media manipulation. Tommy, he said calmly, You've become exactly what you hated. Someone who wields power to hurt the vulnerable. Miles stopped recording and glared at Jordan with unadulterated hatred. I became what you forced me to be, he roared. You planted the seed of my malevolence on that playground. No, Jordan shook his head. You chose this. Every lie, every shattered life, every moment of cruelty, those were your choices. The broadcast now boasted over 10 million viewers, making it the most watched event in internet history. Miles gazed at the number on the screen, his eyes gleaming with a terrible idea. 10 million, he whispered. Perfect. He turned to the camera, a smile that would curdle anyone's blood gracing his lips. Viewers, the time for the final judgment has arrived. You will vote on whether Michael Jordan deserves forgiveness or total annihilation. And this time, there's no turning back. Miles' phone screen displayed numbers skyrocketing. 12 million, 13 million, 15 million viewers. The entire internet seemed to have ground to a halt to witness the spectacle. Attention, world! Miles bellowed into the camera. The moment of Michael Jordan's final judgment is upon us. You, billions of people, will decide his fate. He displayed a poll on the screen. Does Michael Jordan deserve forgiveness or total annihilation? Votes began pouring in by the thousands per second. Initially, destruction was winning by a vast margin. Just look, Miles cackled. The people have spoken. 67% want to see you destroyed, Michael. But then something intriguing began to unfold in the comments. Wait, something doesn't add up in this story. If Michael said he could go train, why didn't he go? Other users began asserting that the vendetta against Jordan made no sense. Don't believe in conspiracy theories, he shrieked. I have proof. But Jordan finally found his voice. May I speak? He requested calmly. May I tell my version of the true story? I waited for you for weeks on end, Jordan continued. I asked other boys in the community. No one knew a Tommy Williams. I thought he'd either changed his mind or that his family had moved. Online comments erupted. This version makes more sense. Why did Miles never show up for practice? Jordan seems genuine. The vote now stood at 52% forgiveness, 48% destruction. Miles was in a state of utter panic. He's lying to salvage his reputation, he shrieked. Why would you believe him now? But Jordan wasn't finished. He stepped closer to Miles, looking directly into his eyes. Tommy, he said softly, why did you never show up for practice? What really happened after that day? Miles flinched as if struck. For a second, his facade crumbled completely, revealing not the powerful billionaire, but a wounded 38-year-old child. I couldn't, he stammered. Why? Jordan pressed gently. Because, Miles burst out, his voice cracking. Because I was scared. The ensuing silence was absolute. 20 million people awaited the truth. Scared of what, Tommy? Tears began to stream down Miles' face. That you'd find out, he whispered, that I wasn't good enough. That you'd see I truly had no talent. That you'd truly reject me this time. The truth was finally out. 30 years of anger, vengeance, and destruction, all born from the fear of rejection. The poll now showed 78% forgiveness. Miles looked at the numbers and understood he had lost. More than that, he had lost himself 3 decades ago. But now it's too late, he whispered. I've become a monster. I've destroyed hundreds of lives. There's no turning back. Jordan moved even closer. Tommy, he said with a tenderness that broke millions' hearts, it's never too late to choose to be better. Miles gazed into Jordan's eyes, seeing for the first time in 30 years not rejection or judgment, but genuine compassion. And then he did something he hadn't done since childhood. He utterly broke down. Miles collapsed to his knees on the yacht's deck, sobbing like a child. 30 years of rage, hatred, and vengeance streamed out in bitter tears before 22 million viewers. I remember now, he choked out between sobs. I remember everything. Jordan knelt beside him, oblivious to the cameras. Tell them, Tommy. Tell the truth. Miles looked at the camera with red, swollen eyes. He's right, he whispered. Michael is telling the truth. He was kind to me. He offered real help. Online comments exploded. He admitted it. Jordan was telling the truth. 30 years of lies. But I was a haunted child, Miles continued. My father abandoned me because he said I would never amount to anything. My mother was always working, exhausted. I was so terrified of yet another rejection. His voice was broken, vulnerable. When Michael offered to train me, I was gripped by terror. What if I went and found out I wasn't good? What if he saw that my father was right about me? Jordan placed a hand on Miles's shoulder. So you crafted a version of the story where I was the villain? He said gently. Because it was easier to hate me than to confront the fear. Exactly, Miles burst out. For 30 years, it was easier to believe you rejected me than to admit that I rejected myself, that I shied away from the opportunity. The audience was completely silent. The poll now showed 89% forgiveness. And the worse I felt, Miles continued, the more I needed to prove I was your equal. I studied obsessively, built companies, amassed power, all so I could face you one day. But you achieved all of that, Jordan pointed out. You became someone incredible. Why wasn't it enough? Miles laughed bitterly through his tears. Because every success was hollow. Every billion earned, every company built, all based on hatred. I couldn't feel pride in anything because everything existed to destroy you. He looked around the yacht, at the guests, at the cameras. And in the process, I became a monster. I destroyed innocent athletes, manipulated the media, ruined lives, all because an 8-year-old child was afraid to try. Kevin, James, and Daniel moved closer. Miles, Kevin said softly, you can still fix this. You can use your power to help instead of destroy. How? Miles cried. How can I undo 30 years of wrongdoing? How can I resurrect the careers I obliterated? Jordan stood and extended his hand to Miles. The same way you built your empire, he said, one step at a time, one athlete at a time, one truth at a time. Miles looked at the outstretched hand, then at the 25 million people watching. Do you truly think I deserve a second chance? He asked the camera. After everything I've done? The comments were an outpouring of compassion. Everyone deserves redemption. Use your power for good now. It's never too late to change. But Miles still hesitated. I don't know if I'm strong enough to be better, he confessed. Jordan smiled. Tommy, you built a billion-dollar empire fueled by pain. Imagine what you can build fueled by love. Slowly, Miles took Jordan's hand and stood up. So, you forgive me? He asked like a child. Tommy, Jordan said, I forgave you 30 years ago when you didn't show up for practice. I was just waiting for you to forgive yourself. The audience erupted in virtual tears and heart emojis. The poll now displayed 96% forgiveness. But then Miles looked at Jordan with a resolve he hadn't possessed in decades. Michael, he said, I still have something to prove. To you, to myself, to everyone watching. What do you mean? Miles walked to the center of the deck, where the basketball hoop was still set up. 30 years late, but I want to accept your invitation to play. Jordan smiled, understanding. You and I? One-on-one. If the old man can keep up, Miles genuinely smiled for the first time in decades. The audience was electrified. Historic game. Basketball redemption. 30 years later. But this time, Miles added, no cheating. Hoops at the same height, same ball, identical shoes. Fair game. Jordan extended his hand. It's a deal, Tommy. The entire world held its breath, knowing they were about to witness something far greater than a mere basketball game. The deck was swiftly rearranged by the crew. 2 identical hoops, a single official NBA ball, and 2 pairs of identical sneakers were brought out. For the first time all weekend, everything was perfectly fair. 21 points, Jordan announced, win by 2. Agreed, Miles concurred, but his hands trembled slightly. The broadcast now had 30 million viewers. More than half the planet connected to the internet was watching. Folks, Jordan spoke directly into the camera, this isn't about winning or losing. It's about two people finding peace. Miles took the ball, took a deep breath, and for the first time in 3 decades, allowed himself to be just Tommy, the 8-year-old boy who loved basketball. The first shot was his. He swished it. 1-0, announced Kevin, who had volunteered as referee. Jordan smiled. Miles truly had talent. All those years of anger had concealed a natural athlete. Jordan took the ball and also made his first shot. 1-1. What followed was not a competition but a dance. Miles, even at 38, moved with a fluidity that betrayed years of secret training. Jordan, even nearing 63, still possessed the grace that had made him a legend. 3-2, Miles, Kevin announced. The online comments had completely changed. What a beautiful game! Miles really knows how to play. This is poetry in motion. 30 years of waiting were worth it. As the game progressed, something magical happened. Miles began to smile, not the cruel smile from before, but a genuine smile of pure delight. He was finally playing the sport he loved, without anger, without vengeance. 12-10, Jordan, Kevin announced after 20 minutes of pure play. Both were sweaty and breathless, but their eyes gleamed with childlike joy. You're better than I imagined, Jordan said during a break. I've been training in secret for 30 years, Miles confessed. Every night after work. It was my way of connecting with that kid on the playground. Jordan realized something profound in that moment. Miles hadn't just spent 30 years building an empire. He had spent 30 years preparing for this exact moment, to prove he was worthy of the opportunity that had been offered so long ago. 17-15, Miles, Kevin announced. Miles was winning, and on his own merit. His shots were precise, his dribbles creative, his strategy intelligent. But then, when the score reached 2018 for Miles, something extraordinary happened. Miles stopped mid-dribble. Michael, he said, can I ask you something? Of course. That day on the playground, if I had shown up for practice, would you really have helped me? A poor kid, no father, nothing special. Jordan stopped playing and looked into Miles' eyes. Tommy, he said softly, you were special. Not because of your basketball talent, but because of the passion in your eyes. Because of how you asked about hard work before asking about fame. Any coach would have seen that. Miles felt tears welling up again. So I wasted everything, didn't I? 30 years that we could have been friends? The word friends echoed across the yacht and through the screens of 35 million people around the world. Jordan stepped closer and placed a hand on Miles' shoulder. Tommy, we didn't waste anything. You became exactly who you needed to be to arrive at this moment. Without those 30 years, you wouldn't have the power to fix the things you broke. Miles looked at the ball in his hands, then at the basket. A simple basket would make him the champion of the game he had dreamed of winning for 3 decades. Instead, he tossed the ball to Jordan. You win, he said simply. Tommy, no. Miles shook his head. I've already won what truly mattered. He turned to the camera, to the 38 million viewers now witnessing the most watched moment in internet history. Folks, his voice was clear and strong. Spend 3 decades building an empire of revenge. I destroyed hundreds of innocent careers. I manipulated all of you with lies. His voice cracked slightly. And all because a child was afraid to try. Jordan stepped closer. But now, Miles smiled through his tears. Now I'm going to spend the next 30 years mending what I've broken. Miles turned to face the camera, with 40 million people witnessing the most honest moment of his life. My name is Tommy Williams, he said, his voice broken but resolute. And for 30 years I lived a lie that destroyed hundreds of innocent lives. Jordan remained by his side, a silent, supportive presence. Every athlete I destroyed, Miles continued, every career I ruined, every dream I shattered, it was because I was angry about a rejection that never even happened. He looked at Jordan. Michael Jordan offered me exactly what I dreamed of when I was 8 years old, a chance to train, to learn, to grow, and I ran away because I was afraid I wouldn't be good enough. But the saddest part, Miles continued, wasn't what I did to other athletes. It was what I did to myself." His voice became a whisper laden with pain. "For 30 years, I never allowed myself to feel genuine joy. Every success, every billion earned, every company built, it was all hollow because it was predicated on hatred." Jordan placed a hand on his shoulder. "I never played basketball for pleasure," Miles confessed. "I only trained to be better than you. I never made a genuine friend because I trusted no one. I never truly loved a woman because my heart was filled with vengeance." Tears streamed freely down his face now. "Do you want to know what's truly tragic?" he asked the camera. "I became a billionaire, powerful, influential, everything a child could dream of. And yet every morning for the past 30 years, I woke up hollow. Because you cannot build happiness on foundations of hatred." The audience was completely silent, 45 million people witnessing a soul bearing itself completely. "Oh me, Michael," Miles turned. "Can I tell you a secret I've never told anyone?" "Of course, Tommy." "Every night before bed," Miles whispered, "I would imagine what it would have been like if I had shown up for practice that day. What it would have been like to have you as a mentor, as a friend. How different my life would be if I had chosen courage over fear." Jordan felt tears welling up in his own eyes. "Every night for 30 years, Miles continued, I dreamed of a version of myself who would never have become a monster. A version who would have grown under your guidance, who would have used basketball to connect with others, not to seek revenge." "Tommy," Jordan began. "No," Miles cut him off. "Let me finish, because this is the part that will break everyone's heart here." He looked directly into the camera. "I didn't destroy those hundreds of careers because I was evil. I destroyed them because deep down, every talented athlete I saw reminded me of the boy I could have been, and I couldn't bear to see others living the life I threw away." Miles fell to his knees again, this time not in despair, but from complete emotional exhaustion. "Michael," he said through his sobs, "can you forgive me? Not for what I did to you, because now I know I never truly hurt you. But can you forgive me for squandering 30 years of the life you tried to give me?" Jordan knelt beside him, placing both hands on his shoulders. "Tommy," he said with a tenderness that broke the hearts of 50 million people, "I don't just forgive you, I admire you." Miles looked up, bewildered. "How can you admire me?" "Because," Jordan smiled through his own tears, "it takes more courage to admit you were wrong in front of 50 million people than it does to build an empire. It takes more strength to lay yourself bare emotionally like that than it does to exact revenge for 30 years. Jordan helped Miles to his feet. "And Tommy, it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be." Miles looked into Jordan's eyes and for the first time in 3 decades saw not judgment, not pity, but genuine hope. "Do you truly believe I can change?" he asked like a child. "I believe you have already changed," Jordan replied. "The person who orchestrated this cruel vendetta is not the same person standing here now, being vulnerable and honest." Miles turned to the camera one last time. "Everyone," he said, "tomorrow my new life begins. I will use every connection, every company, every dollar I possess to mend the lives I shattered. And Michael," he looked at Jordan, can I still accept that training invitation? 30 years overdue?" Jordan beamed the most genuine smile of his life. "Tommy, it will be an honor to be your training partner." Jordan and Miles embraced in the center of the deck as 60 million people worldwide witnessed the genesis of one of history's most improbable friendships. "Everyone," Jordan addressed the camera, "you've just witnessed something that transcends sport. You've seen the power of forgiveness, of second chances, and of the courage to change." Miles, still visibly moved, reached for his phone and began making live calls. "Rodriguez from Sports Network," he announced loudly for all to hear. "I want you to prepare a special feature. We are going to expose all the false stories I've fabricated over the past 10 years. We will publicly apologize to every athlete we've wronged." Thompson from Athletic Chronicles, he continued, "cancel all defamation contracts, effective immediately, and prepare a $100 million fund to compensate athletes who were harmed by our deceptive campaigns." The audience was ecstatic, He's really doing it. 100 million fund. Real change happening. Kevin, James, and Daniel approached. Miles, Kevin said, we want to help too. We know other athletes who have been damaged by such schemes. We're going to form an organization, James added, to expose manipulation in sports media and protect young athletes. With Jordan as a mentor, Daniel completed, and you leveraging your connections for good. Miles looked at the three men who, just hours earlier, had been his accomplices. Do you forgive me for blackmailing you? We already have, Kevin smiled, because you've given us the chance to be part of the solution. Jordan addressed the camera. Friends watching, he said, you've seen today that it's never too late to choose to be better. Tommy built an empire based on pain, and now he will rebuild it based on love. Miles took the microphone. As of today, he announced, all my media resources will be used to tell true stories about athletes, to celebrate not just victories, but character, to protect young dreamers instead of destroying them. He looked at Jordan. And I'll accept that invitation to train, not to become a professional player, that ship has sailed, but to reconnect with the kid who loved basketball before fear took hold. We have a gym in Charlotte, Jordan smiled. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 a.m. 30 years overdue, but better late than never. The broadcast now had 70 million viewers, the most watched event in human history. Captain Miller approached with a tablet. Gentlemen, he said, I've just received confirmation. The FBI has dropped all investigations against Mr. Parker after seeing the broadcast. They consider his public confession and immediate reparative actions to be sufficient. Miles drew a deep breath, realizing that for the first time in 30 years he was truly free, not from the legal system, but from the shackles of hatred he himself had forged. There's one more thing, he said to the camera, that I need to do. He addressed the yacht guests who had observed everything in an escalating hush. You, he pointed at them, have been complicit in my cruelty. Some because I paid you, others simply because you enjoyed the spectacle. But now you have a choice. The woman in the red dress bowed her head in shame. You can continue to be spectators of others' malice, Miles continued, or you can join us in building something better. One by one, the guests approached. Some offered apologies, others offered resources for the reparation fund. I want to invest $10 million in the fund, said the man with the cigar, to atone for my participation in this atrocity. My public relations firm will work pro bono, offered the woman in the blue dress, to restore the reputations of the aggrieved athletes. Jordan watched with a smile. He was witnessing what few encounter in life, the precise moment when malevolence transforms into beneficence. Miles took the microphone one last time. Folks, in 72 hours, you will witness tangible changes, he promised. Every media enterprise I control will begin publishing retractions. Every aggrieved athlete will receive not only a public apology, but also financial and professional support to rebuild their careers. He looked at Jordan. And every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m., I will be in Charlotte. Not as the billionaire Miles Parker, but as Tommy Williams, the 8-year-old boy who finally mustered the courage to accept help. The broadcast had reached a historic peak, 80 million simultaneous viewers. Jordan placed an arm around Miles's shoulder. Friends, he said to the camera, today you have witnessed something that transcends personal forgiveness. You've seen how a choice to change can impact not just 2 lives, but hundreds of others. And how truth, Miles added, even when it hurts, always liberates. Kevin approached with one final revelation. Folks, he said to the broadcast, there's something you ought to know. The 3 of us weren't the only players Miles blackmailed. There's a network of over 50 athletes who were coerced into participating in schemes like this. But now, James continued, they are all free to tell their stories, to expose the systematic manipulation within sports media. This broadcast isn't merely about redemption, Daniel interjected. It's about revolution, about fundamentally altering how we treat athletes and how we consume sports media. Miles nodded gravely. That's why I'm divesting all my media companies, he announced, donating them to a nonprofit organization that will be governed by active and retired athletes. Never again will one individual wield the power I once possessed to manipulate narratives. The reverberations of those words struck the audience like a nuclear blast. The comments section erupted, "He's donating billions. Sports media revolution. History in the making." Jordan gazed at Miles with genuine admiration. "Tommy," he stated, "you haven't just redeemed yourself. You've reshaped the world." Miles smiled through his tears. "No, Michael. We changed the world. 30 years ago, you planted a seed of kindness that I buried under layers of rage. Today, it has finally blossomed." They embraced once more as the sun dipped below the ocean horizon, painting the most exquisite live image ever broadcast. Two men, separated by decades of anguish, now united by the courage to choose love over hatred. "Folks," Jordan addressed the 85 million strong audience one final time, "if this narrative has resonated with you, if you've witnessed that genuine change is indeed possible, then do your part. Challenge the narratives you encounter. Support athletes with unwavering compassion. And remember, it is never too late to choose to be better." Miles nodded toward the camera. "And if you are young athletes watching," he imparted, "remember that your dreams are valid, that the fear of failure should not deter you from striving, and that there are always adults willing to assist, should you possess the courage to accept." The broadcast slowly drew to a close, yet the profound impact of those hours would reverberate across the globe. 30 years of animosity transmuted into hope, hundreds of careers poised for restoration, billions of dollars reallocated from malevolence to beneficence, and two souls finally at peace. 6 months later, the gymnasium in Charlotte, every Tuesday and Thursday morning, had become one of the most remarkable places on earth. Jordan and Tommy trained together, yet not in solitude. Dozens of young athletes joined them, not merely learning basketball, but also lessons in character, forgiveness, and second chances. The Tommy Williams Foundation, as Miles adamantly insisted it be named, had already reinstated 127 careers shattered by media manipulation and established scholarships for 500 underprivileged young athletes. And every morning before training commenced, Jordan and Tommy would dedicate a few silent minutes, reminding themselves of the power to choose love over fear, truth over vengeance, hope over hatred. The story that began with humiliation concluded with redemption, and for 85 million people worldwide, it proved that it's never too late to choose to be better. Did this story resonate with you? Did it illustrate that genuine transformation is attainable? Then subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, transform, and attest that humanity can always choose a better path. Because we all deserve second chances, and we all possess the power to transmute pain into purpose. Click the subscribe button and join this revolution of hope.